Welcome back, and joining us for a look at the day's markets action is Shaun Dendere from Trive Investments. Thank you so much for your time, Shaun. It's quite interesting, the switch up that we saw on the JSE today, because it looked like it was going to end off the day in gains, but it did slump into the red territory. And of course, we're seeing that negative sentiment filtering through to the US markets as well, and most of the European markets. And this is quite interesting for me, because I would have thought that markets would be upbeat today because of the PCE print that actually came in line with expectations on Friday.
Firstly, thank you for having me. It is quite an interesting day, right? So if we're looking at PCE, so the PCE is a good gauge for inflation with regards to the Fed. So it coming in cooler, it shows signs that hopefully we will be getting an interest rate cut soon. I think we're pricing in that in for September.
Yeah.
But I think the market is a bit nervy because I think it is a big week. We've got NFP this week. We got the FOMC meeting this week.
Yeah.
Bank of England. We got Japan. So I think everyone's being a bit cautious, and also a big earnings week with the tech companies coming through there, especially with some of their results coming out as a mixed bag last week.
Yeah.
So as much as there's a lot of positive data that's coming from a numbers perspective, I think from an investor and trader perspective, we just have to wait it out as more news comes in through the week.
And actually, it's also quite interesting because, I mean, we know that the Fed will keep interest rates the same on Wednesday. But I guess really what investors will be sifting through is the tone coming from Jerome Powell. Talking about tone, because you talk about the tech earnings that are coming out this week, at least from 4 of the mega caps. There was a disappointing tone last week coming from Tesla and Alphabet's results. Do you think, Matt, that maybe some of the nervousness is coming from that tone, that there could be an extension of the disappointment this week when we get earnings from Microsoft, Meta, Apple, and Amazon?
No, 100%. I think that, with the tech companies, we've had a rally for at least the past month. I do think that from a share price perspective, there is a bit of a correction that's coming in. You're seeing the share prices and their respective indices coming in lower. And, with the numbers that came out last week, as much as from a share price perspective, everything has been quite great.
Yeah.
I think the numbers are shaking, the market in terms of would have expected, the earnings to come out roaring, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And it's all been AI driven. I think I heard Microsoft was speaking that it does take a long time for the revenue that they're getting from AI to actually reflect on their books.
Yeah.
So going forward in the week, I think it's going to be interesting how all these other companies come through their results.
Yeah, well, talking about results, we did get results coming out of Heineken today, not roaring. We did see that share price plummeting there, as we did have them miss on growth expectations, to the point where they actually even posted a net loss. How did you digest those earnings?
I think that it's quite interesting that for me personally, I was surprised that the earnings came out quite let's not call it quite negative.
Yes.
They did have organic growth on their net income, but I think the biggest issue is their investment in CR beer in China, which is definitely creating an impairment on their balance sheet, which has led to the numbers that we're seeing today.
It's actually, even now the share has plummeted at 10% currently. So, yeah, it's quite interesting to see how investors have reacted to those numbers. Let's come back home and take a look at Pan-African Resources. It did come out with a full-year production update, with full-year production rising 6.2%, falling in line with guidance. And Pan-African has actually been one of the better performing gold miners operationally, benefiting also from the higher gold price. Does it seem like they've kept that momentum?
Yeah, I think that Pan-African Resources have kept the momentum. I mean, firstly, they have an advantage versus the other mining companies in that their share price is at around R6.90, which is relatively cheap. And I think they've also really streamlined their business in terms of, from a production perspective, you see that they don't have a lot of downtime. They don't have as many injuries or stoppages, which is, allowing them to actually, produce a lot more. Like all the other, mining houses, the gold price, I mean, it's reached record highs this year. The gold price and, the strong dollar is also doing really, it has benefited them for the most part, and they're also making quite interesting strategic investments. So I think Pan African Resources is really a stock, to watch, and also a stock, in my opinion, that, if you don't have a lot of cash and you want to get a couple of shares, is somewhere you can actually dive into.
All right. What else are you diving into, Shaun, today? Your stock pick.
So my stock pick is Robex, RBX, going back into that mining sector. The reason being is that they actually made a strategic investment in Baoba Resources, which is a chrome mining production company. And from their perspective, this is expected to boost their earnings. So that would normally lead to an increase in share price. We're also seeing positive trends in South Africa and Australia from a construction point of view. So it's technically, hopefully, we've turned the tide from, the times that were in COVID, and also China opening up slower than we expected it to. But there is a high demand of, for chrome and some of the things that Robex will be, producing. And from a share price perspective, it is actually currently undervalued. So that'll be the share that I'll be going in with today.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and giving us insights on what has moved investors' money today, Shaun. That was Shaun Dendere from Trive Investments.